My turn had come up. I had to go out. I was the cameraman on this. So we're going to try to fix this. Using statistics. Dun, 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 dun. Remember, so we're doing a three-way ANOVA, factorial ANOVA, 3 IVs. Here's the raw data. We turned it into this table. That's where we ended the last video. We're going to use this data to basically construct the source of variance table for a three-way ANOVA. And it looks like this, and it's horrible, scary. And remember that all of the mean squares between all the different sources get divided by the error term back down here, also called the within group variance, okay? But before we do all that hard work, calculate the bracket terms, let's check for the main effect of each IV and to see if there's any interaction going on between the IVs by graphing their means. All right, we're going to start with the alone group. Okay, that was the C variable, right? Whether they went alone or in groups. So we're just going to look at the C1 side, and we're going to start with the B1 level. So here's B1. We're going to graph that across all A1, A2, A3, just on the C1 side. Okay, so we're going to use the mean. So it's going to be 5.5 at A1, 7.75 at A2, 11 at A3. So 5.5, 7 point something, and 11. So we graph those. So there's B1 across all levels of A. We're going to do B2. That's this one. So it's going to be 3.0, 4.5, 9.0. We're going to graph those. And so there's our B2. That's stealth. Last one is the hide and seek. We're going to look at these numbers, 2.3, 5.25, 6.25. We're going to go ahead and graph those. And seeing a little bit of interaction. I'm kind of guessing iffy maybe that it's not serious enough to be considered significant, but we'll get to that at the end here. So this is for the people that went out by themselves. So let's check for main effect A, right? Main effect A is the weapon type. What we got to do is we got to find the averages of A1. I'm just going to kind of eyeball them in here. So the averages of A1 is roughly there. The average of A2 is roughly right on top of the blue in there. And the average of A3 is a little bit right there. Okay, so we go by the averages of the A's going this way, and then we connect them with a solid line. So if this line, this new black line, if it was horizontal, flat, parallel to the x-axis, that means there would be no effect A, right? Because the value was not changing across the different levels of A. But here they definitely are, right? They start low and then they get higher. So there's definitely a main effect A, yes. So now we're going to look at main effect B. To check for main effect B, we have to take the means of all B1s. So remember, B1 was, what, 5.5, 6.25, 11, something like that. We have to add them up and divide by 3 for each one of the B's. So we're going to have a mean for B1, a mean for B2, a mean for B3. If they're all the same, that means there's no main effect for B. Okay, so I'll say that again. If the means of the B's are the same, that means there's no main effect B. But B1, the mean is 8.08. So let's look at B2. So it's going to be, oh, I don't know, what is that? 3 plus 3.75 plus, I don't know, 7. Oh, there it is. Divide by 3. We got the mean of B2. And let's look at the mean of B3. So it looks like 1, 5, and 5. Oh, pretty close. We're going to divide those by 3. So you'll notice we have the means are not the same. As we jump from level to level of the B's, remember, B1 is the B's are the tactics. So this is smash and grab. This is stealth. This is hide and seek. Apparently, hide and seek doesn't work as well. So there is a main effect B. Right? It doesn't have to go up. It can also go down. So we got a main effect A. We got a main effect B. We have to check the main effect C. In order to do that, we have to redo everything we just did for the C1 group for the C2 group. And I will simply do that with my magic powers. Kabam! So I repeated the process, right? Here's the means of the B1 for C2, the means of the B2 for C2, and the means of the B3 for C2. And what we have to do is we have to compare the C2 graph to the C1 graph. If they're significantly different, that means there's a main effect of the C's going on here. So let me use my magic and see if I can't do this. So if I put one right on top of the other, if the lines were pretty much the same, that means there's no difference between C1 and C2, but there definitely is here. So we also have a main effect of C. You see that? Right? They're not identical. They're pretty close, but they're not identical. So I'm going to say yes, there is a main effect C. So now let's look for interaction. So interaction between A and B, you can see it more clearly in the C2. These lines, there's not a lot of interaction going on here. There is a little bit here. It's minor. And I'm going to say no, there is no interaction between A and B, right? These lines should cross, you know, hopefully at a 90-degree angle or something close to that. These just barely kind of cross. These two are almost parallel. These three over here are almost practically parallel over here. So minor interaction, but I don't think it's going to be significant. So I'm going to say no interaction on A and B. A and C is if I took this graph and put it right on top of that graph again, would the A lines be the same, right? And they are not. Right? The blue lines are completely different. The green lines are kind of a little bit different. The red lines are... So everybody's different here. So I'm going to say yes, there is going to be an interaction between A and C. And then B and C would be almost the same thing. If we took the B here and we put it right on top of here, you'll notice that the points of B are practically the same, right? They're same for the red and the blue and the green all the way across. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say there is no main effect for B and C. And then for all A, B, and C, nah, these two, you know, if you took this blue line here and pulled it down a little bit, these would be practically the same graphs here. So I'm going to say no, there is no overall interaction between A, B, and C. So in a nutshell, the weapon, the weapon makes a difference. The tactic makes a difference. Whether they go out alone or not makes a difference. And the only interaction is whether they go alone or not and which weapon they take. So that's what we're going to go ahead and try to prove with our source table. And again, this is a good place to stop, so I'm just going to go ahead and stop it. MGZ, out. And if you get a truck, don't do what this guy does.
Unless you're coming, come on! Get in! Come on, come on.
My jacket's gone.